The office was silent, its fluorescent lights humming like distant crickets. Papers lay scattered, chairs askew, coffee cups half drunk and forgotten. Everyone had gone home hours ago, except for her. A young black girl, no older than 16, moved through the silence like a whisper. She swept the floor with steady hands, her schoolbooks peeking from her backpack in the janitor's closet. Her eyes carried the weight of someone who knew work was not a choice, but a necessity. In the shadows of a glass-walled boardroom, a man watched. He was the last to leave, a millionaire CEO who'd returned for his phone. He expected to see an older janitor, perhaps one of the regulars, but instead he saw her. What the millionaire saw next changed his life. In a single moment, success and struggle stood face to face, and something remarkable happened. Her name is Alia Johnson. At just 22, she carries more weight on her shoulders than most do in a lifetime. By day, she's a part-time college student majoring in education. By night, she's a janitor, cashier, and tutor, whatever it takes to keep the lights on at home. Since she was 16, Alia has supported her two younger siblings after their mother passed away unexpectedly. Their father had long since disappeared, leaving her to fill shoes far too big, far too soon, but you would never hear her complain. Quiet and composed, Alia moves through life with a grace that belies her exhaustion. Her friends call her the storm and the calm, tireless in her hustle, unwavering in her hope. She budgets every dollar, packs her siblings' lunches before sunrise, and studies between shifts. Even when sleep is scarce and bills pile high, she greets each day with resolve. She's never asked for a handout, only a chance. And though the world has overlooked her brilliance, she's never let that dull her light. Dignity is her armor and determination her compass. Every mop stroke, every late night, every sacrifice. It's all for the future she refuses to give up on. In the gleaming towers of downtown, Alia was a shadow. Every evening she slipped into the office through the back entrance, dressed in a plain uniform and soft-soled shoes that made her footsteps nearly silent. By the time the executives were heading home, she was already wiping down their fingerprints from glass doors, collecting coffee cups left behind in meetings, and emptying trash cans filled with half-eaten lunches and crumpled agendas. Most never noticed her. A few nodded politely. Fewer still knew her name. She moved quickly and quietly, careful not to disturb. She'd learned how to blend in with the wallpaper, to become part of the building's silent routine. While the office buzzed with big deals and louder egos during the day, Alia worked in the quiet aftermath, listening, learning, watching. She had dreams, big ones. She imagined starting a school for kids like her siblings, writing books that changed lives, maybe even running her own nonprofit one day. But those dreams stayed tucked away, hidden behind tired eyes and long nights. In a world that barely saw her, it felt safer to keep them secret. Still, even in silence, Alia was building something no one could take away: hope. Mr. Harrison was the kind of man people admired from a distance, polished, precise, and perpetually in motion. He was the founder and CEO of one of the city's fastest-growing tech firms. Board members praised his vision. Employees respected his authority. He was the face on magazine covers, the voice at investor summits, the man who turned a garage startup into a multi-million-dollar empire. But with success came distance. Though Mr. Harrison had once known struggle, raised in a cramped apartment by a single mother, working odd jobs through college, he had long since left that world behind. Over the years, the meetings, mergers, and milestones blurred out the memories of the long nights and tight budgets. He walked through the office with purpose but rarely paused. Names, faces, stories, they became background noise to his relentless drive. To him, the late-night janitor was just another fixture in a well-run machine. He didn't notice the small frame sweeping the hallways or the backpack filled with textbooks, not until that night. That night, something in the quiet shifted, and for the first time in a long time, Mr. Harrison was reminded of where he came from and the people he'd stopped seeing along the way. It was nearly midnight when Mr. Harrison returned to the office, the city outside wrapped in darkness. He had left his tablet behind, a small but critical tool in his endless schedule. As the elevator doors opened, the hush of the empty floor greeted him. He expected to be alone. But down the hallway, a figure moved. Elia was still cleaning. Her back was to him, her headphones in, methodically scrubbing a coffee stain from the carpet. When she saw him, she flinched, quickly straightening up, eyes wide, as if caught doing something wrong. She tried to disappear, head down, body angled away, but this time he noticed. Mr. Harrison hesitated. For a moment, he almost kept walking, almost let habit take over. But something about her, maybe the exhaustion in her eyes, maybe the quiet purpose in her movement, stopped him. "Why are you still here?" he asked, his voice low but clear. Aliyah blinked, unsure if he was angry or just surprised. Her fingers gripped the mop handle like a lifeline. I'm almost done," she said softly. But he didn't move. His eyes for once didn't drift away. He stood still, waiting, not for the cleaning to finish, but for her to speak. That simple question opened a door neither of them expected, like her. But something in his voice wasn't sharp or rushed. It was curious, maybe even kind. She looked down, then up again. "My mom's sick," she said quietly. "Kidney failure. She can't work anymore." Mr. Harrison nodded, listening. "My dad left years ago. It's just me and my little brother now. He's 12. I pack his lunches, help with homework, make sure he's okay. We had to move after my mom got sick. I work here at night. I work weekends too." Her voice didn't tremble, but it was tired, worn thin. "I got into college, even got a partial scholarship, but it wasn't enough. Rent comes first. Food, medicine. I couldn't do it all, so I put school on hold." She paused, ashamed to have said so much. "I just want a chance," she finished. "That's all, a real one." For the first time in years, Mr. Harrison didn't think about the stock market, his next meeting, or tomorrow's deadlines. He thought about this girl, no, this woman, standing in front of him, holding her family together with invisible threads. And more than that, he truly heard her. Mr. Harrison's mind slipped back, years and miles away, to a cramped one-bedroom apartment where the heater barely worked, and dinner was often whatever his mother could scrape together after her second shift. He remembered the way her hands cracked from the cleaning chemicals, how she'd fall asleep in her uniform on the couch, how, as a boy, he'd tuck a blanket around her and promise himself he'd buy her a better life one day, and he had. But in doing so, he'd forgotten the climb. He remembered wearing second-hand shoes to school, keeping his head down, never asking for help, just like Aliyah, strong, quiet, invisible. Now standing in the glow of his glass-walled office, guilt washed over him. He'd built everything he had on the foundation of struggle, but somewhere along the way, he'd stopped seeing those still stuck in it. Looking at Aliyah was like looking into a mirror from a life he'd buried. In her quiet resilience, he saw the boy he used to be. And suddenly, all the power, all the success felt meaningless if it couldn't lift someone like her up. Mr. Harrison stood silently for a moment, then asked gently, "What would you do if money wasn't the problem?" Aliyah looked up, unsure how to answer. No one had ever asked her that. "I'd go back to school," she said slowly. "I'd finish my degree. Maybe start a program for kids like my brother. Something real, something that gives them hope. I'd build something of my own." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a sleek business card, and held it out to her. "Come see me tomorrow," he said. "No cleaning. Just come." She stared at the card, blinking in disbelief. "Why?" He gave her a rare smile, small but sincere. "Because someone once gave me a chance when I didn't have one. Maybe it's time I remember how that felt." Aliyah took the card with trembling hands. For the first time in a long time, she let herself believe something might change. The next morning, Aliyah stood outside the office building, heart pounding. She wore her best outfit, pressed slacks, a borrowed blouse, and shoes she'd polished the night before. She still wasn't sure if it had all been real. When she stepped inside, the receptionist smiled and guided her straight to Mr. Harrison's office. He greeted her warmly, no suit today, just a man ready to change a life. "I meant what I said," he began. "I want to offer you a scholarship to finish your degree. Full tuition, no strings." Aliyah blinked, stunned. "And if you're interested," he added, "I have a position in our startup division, part-time, flexible hours. It'll give you experience and a paycheck." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Tears welled up, but she didn't let them fall. She couldn't. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because I see something in you," he said. "Something I recognize, and I believe in betting on that." Aliyah nodded, too moved to speak. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was starting. Months passed, and Aliyah's world transformed. She returned to school, balancing classes, tutoring sessions, and her new role in Mr. Harrison's startup division. The work was challenging, but she rose to meet it with the same quiet strength she had once brought to mopping floors. Her professors spoke of her dedication. Her co-workers admired her insight. She wasn't just keeping up, she was leading. And Mr. Harrison, he changed too. Their conversations went beyond work. He listened more, asked questions, and started learning names he'd long overlooked. He visited departments he hadn't stepped into in years. He started offering mentorship programs, scholarships, and support networks. The man who had once walked past his employees without a glance now saw them, really saw them. Watching Aliyah thrive reminded him of what he used to value: grit, compassion, humanity. She didn't just remind him of who he had been, she inspired him to become better. Together, they built more than products. They built people. And the culture of the company began to shift. Aliyah, once invisible, had become a quiet catalyst. Her journey lit a path for others, and through her, Mr. Harrison rediscovered the soul of the empire he had created. Years later, the auditorium buzzed with applause as Aliyah Johnson walked across the stage in her cap and gown, graduating with honors. Her smile was radiant, her siblings beaming from the front row, their mother, now stable and healthy, clutching tissues in the crowd. And near the back, standing tall in a simple suit, Mr. Harrison clapped louder than anyone. When it was Aliyah's turn to speak, the room fell silent. "I used to clean floors in buildings like this," she began. "Most people never looked twice, but one night someone did, and everything changed." She paused, her voice steady. "Sometimes all someone needs is to be seen, not pitied, not fixed, just seen." The crowd erupted. Mr. Harrison felt a lump in his throat, not of regret, but pride. Aliyah stepped down from the stage, not as a janitor, not as someone barely getting by, but as a leader, a graduate, and a woman who turned silence into purpose. Today, Aliyah runs her own nonprofit, the SEAM Project, serving youth in under-resourced communities. She offers mentorship, scholarships, job training, and most importantly, belief. Teenagers come in broken, uncertain, tired, and they leave with vision and confidence. Because Aliyah knows what it's like to carry the world quietly, to feel invisible, to need just one person to care. She hires teens who remind her of herself, greedy, quiet fighters, and tells them, "I know what it's like. You belong here." One afternoon, Mr. Harrison visits her center. No cameras, no fanfare, just him. He steps inside, watching kids code, write, study. He sees her, clipboard in hand, surrounded by life she's helped change. They see each other, no words needed. He opens his arms. She walks into them. They hug, quietly, fully, and with deep respect. She changed his life. He opened the door. Together they sparked something bigger. This story isn't about charity, it's about recognition. About what happens when one person sees the worth in another before the world does. Mr. Harrison didn't rescue Aliyah. He simply noticed her and gave her a door to walk through. She did the rest. So many people like Aliyah walk among us. hardworking, quiet, and carrying far more than we can see. Most of the time, they go unnoticed, unheard, invisible. But when someone takes a moment to ask, to listen, to care, everything can change. Kindness doesn't cost much. Empathy isn't a grand gesture, but their impact can echo for years. One moment, one question, one open door. That's all it took to rewrite not just Alia's future, but the futures of everyone she would go on to uplift. Because when we choose to see each other, we create ripples. And ripples, over time, become waves. There's an Alia in every school, every job, every quiet corner of the world. You don't need to be rich to make a difference. You just need to notice. Never ignore the quiet ones. They're often carrying the heaviest loads. Offer help if you can. A kind word, a chance, a little belief. It might be more than enough. And if this story moved you, share it. You never know who might need to hear it.